Welcome to Rediscover People podcast, where we talk to people who have rediscovered themselves through the things they've been through or the work that they do. And today I'm here with
Chris
Weavers, right?
Yes, Chris Weavers.
Yeah. And so you own the JW restaurant here in Grand Haven, Michigan, right?
JW's Food and Spirits, it's called.
Okay. Yeah. And another?
Right around the corner is on Washington. JW's is on 7th. The JW's Market and Wine Shop that I also own is on Washington Street. And it is obviously a wine shop and a market. We sell wines from all over the world, beers. We've got tons of artisan cheeses. We do gift baskets. We do charcuterie. We do a little bit of everything.
Wow. How long has that been open?
7 years.
7 years. Mm-hmm. Both?
No. Actually, the restaurant, we're in our 30th anniversary this year.
Wow.
And we are celebrating with our very own beer that Grand Armory brewed for us. We collaborated with them, and it's called JW's Beachtown Juicy IPA, and we're going to run it all through 2024, and it's been super popular. I went through all 9 kegs that they had brewed for me in March. It's all gone already, and they're brewing me a new batch, and they're going to start selling it at their tap room because people have been requesting it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I want to get to know you more. So
Sure.
How did you even get into this? Like, where are you born and raised here? Or?
Yes, I'm a native. I didn't live here when I started this, though, and that's where the story begins. Is I was working in Traverse City. I was a retail manager of an outlet clothing store. Wasn't in love with it. My dad was a regular at JW's. It was called The Hangar at the time. Okay. And the old owner, the former owner, wanted to sell it. And he was chatting with my dad at happy hour. And my dad wanted to get me back here. I was at prime childbearing age. I was 27, and he thought I'd meet somebody in Traverse City and get married and live there, and he'd never see his grandkids. So his diabolical plan was to lure me back with a restaurant. He called me up in Traverse City and said, "Hey, I have a chance to buy the Hangar. Would you be interested in running it and buying it from me once you get your feet wet?" And I said, "Sure, I'll give it a try. I never done anything in the restaurant business before other than Burger King in high school." So I moved back home, and that's what we did. The rest is history.
So your relationship with your dad was a good one, right? He was missing you while you were up there. Is that what? It
was good. His intentions were good. It got me back here. He and I butted heads terribly. We're a lot alike. And we did not do well being in business together. In the first year or two, we were just at each other's throats.
And you were 27 at the time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I wanted to do it my way. He wanted to do it his way. He owned a junkyard. So it's a very different business.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when you're a junk dealer, you can say whatever you want to your customers. In hospitality, that doesn't fly.
No.
So he and I butted heads a lot on stuff like that and how to spend the money and how to make the prices workable where we wanted to set them. And because we were fighting so bad, he said, "You know what? I'm going to have an attorney drop a management agreement. And what that's going to say is that I own the business, but you're going to run it. This is your baby. If it succeeds, that's on you. If you run it into the ground, that's on you also." So I said, "Okay, I can do this." And we signed the agreement. That was like 3 years in.
Okay.
And he stepped away. And I did pretty well. I was still learning a lot of things, making a lot of mistakes. And he would still kind of, because he was always in the background, you always want to please your parents.
Sure.
So I would do things that I thought would please him rather than what I really thought would make the business go.
Okay, yeah.
So he still was kind of in I was still in his grasp. Not that he meant for that to happen, but it just did. That's
like
what
his shadow and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what father-daughter relationships are. You always want to please your parents. So I was still doing things like that. And it went okay. I darn near ran it into the ground a couple of times. There were a few really lean years where I couldn't take a paycheck. It was all I could do to pay the bills. And I made those mistakes, and I got back on the good side of it. And I was in the thick of all of that. I got married and had a baby. Not necessarily in that order, things happen.
Yeah, sure.
So when I'm getting my feet wet and making all these mistakes, I'm also pregnant. And the employment market was terrible then. I couldn't find anybody. I was like 6-8 months pregnant, and it was just myself and one other dude cooking. So I'd have to put like 14 hours in behind the grill. Morning sickness was terrible, and it was hot, and it was, what have I gotten myself into?
Oh, no.
But it worked itself out. I had the baby. It was okay. The employment market improved a little bit.
What years were this?
I had my son in 97.
Okay.
So, yeah. And things got a little bit better. And then my dad got sick. He got pancreatic cancer in 2005. And he still owned it at the time. I was still running it. He was pretty hands-off. And then now he's sick. So he had all the operations and all the chemo and all of that. And pancreatic cancer is a 2% survival rate.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
he
I have
was-
an uncle that also had that. Yep.
Yeah, he didn't make it, did he?
No.
No. 2% survival rate. My dad was not in the 2%, as was, your uncle wasn't either. So in 2007, he died. And that was the super interesting part, is after he died, things took off. I didn't have him to please anymore. I could do it my way and experiment with things. And if it didn't work, I'd try something else. But he wasn't there for me to please. So that's really when the business took off, 2007, 2008. Ironically, because that's when the housing market crashed and everything went to hell.
Yeah.
Can I say hell on
Yeah,
this?
absolutely.
Okay.
Sure.
So when a lot of businesses and business owners were really having a tough time, it was great. It was great. So
Wow.
that was such an interesting introspective that I couldn't really make a go of it until he died. And then things went better, and then I got a POS system, and I tuned more things up, and then I had gotten divorced around that time too, 2009, 2010. And then I noticed another interesting thing. I did even better because my husband was also kind of in the background.
In your ear about the
Yeah,
whole thing?
saying this and saying that. And the takeaway from these many years of scraping and trying to please everybody, I realized I don't need to please these people. I don't need to listen to them. I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. And it's always a tough business, but after that, it got a lot better.
Was there anything that he talked to you about before he passed, or anything concerning the business, or was he already just kind of, you're doing it, whatever?
No, we didn't talk about it because it was bad. I remember I was pregnant and we were in the office and we were literally screaming at each other. And I thought, I'm not doing this anymore. We are not talking about the restaurant. And we did not talk about the restaurant.
So it made
For the last part of his life.
family gatherings better.
It did. It's like politics or religion. You don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And the restaurant was part of the things you don't talk about because it was so inflammatory for both of us. So no, we didn't cover any of that. When he died, we were good. We said my goodbyes and all of that, and it was fine. We just don't talk about the restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I imagine having a divorce in the middle of all that is a whole other layer of.
I had a lot of balls in the air around those times. Yes. Yeah. And the marriage didn't end well. There were things that were very hurtful, and so now I'm a single mom with 2 kids trying to run a restaurant, and I wasn't making much money because, yeah, things were better, but they weren't great. I still had a lot of making up to do.
Yeah.
When you got years of lean times, there's a lot of stuff that goes to heck that you got to take care of, new equipment and fixing things and wage increases and inflation and all of that. So, things weren't great still, but yeah, it was just one more tough thing to deal with. And it worked out okay. I had good people in place. I've had some really good, loyal employees. Actually, a couple of my staff have been there longer than I have. I've been there 30 years, and I'll bet you my bartender, Kathy's been there 40.
Wow.
Yeah. So she
Well, I
came
think,
with the restaurant.
it definitely takes that, right? Because that support system there, those people that are there, because, I mean, a lot of times people going through a divorce, all that kind of stuff, your whole personal life winds up in the mix, and then starts to come out, like fights at the office or things like that. And a lot of times people can't make it through that. Their business doesn't make it through.
I've seen that a lot of times. I watch Bar Rescue all the time. Makes me feel better about myself when I see
You
some
didn't
of
need
the
rescuing.
I didn't need rescuing, and some of the stuff, and I learn a lot from that. I learn, first of all, I'm doing some things right. I'm doing a lot of things right, and I also learned some other things. Okay, I better not experiment with X because I see what it did to this restaurant or whatever. But yeah, it's very interesting. I'm very enthralled with Bar Rescue and all of those restaurant type shows because my business pretty much consumes my life, and so I watch it on my off time. You'd think that I'd go do something not restaurant related, but I always want to make myself better. I want to make my business better. I want to make my community better.
Yeah.
So it's just.
So what has been your process when you're going through something and you're, I guess on a personal level first, how do you keep that out of the business part, right? How do you get to work and then kind of.
You just do it. And I think more people should. There are a lot of people who they can't separate that, and it really needs to be done. My staff does not need to know if I'm, going through a divorce or I'm sick or I'm having a bad day. That's not their issue. They're there to do a job, to run my business, and that should not be a part of it. And I have several employees, and I've seen a lot of other people. If they're upset about something, everybody knows about
Everybody
it.
has to know.
Yeah.
Well, especially you'd see that more in a bar situation, right? Like.
Yeah, it's very important to leave that aside. And I remember the day is this like going to be out in public and stuff? Maybe I shouldn't get too personal.
It's up to you.
I'll just let that go then.
Okay.
But the moral of that story I didn't tell is I dealt with some heavy stuff, and a couple hours later I had to go into work, and nobody knew because it's not their business, and it's not their responsibility to deal with me if I'm emotionally upset or whatever.
Yeah.
They don't need that. We all have our own stuff. Don't let it splash on everybody else.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I just want to go back into a little bit of your life first. So you were born and raised where exactly?
Well, no, I was in Spring Lake Township. You
Okay.
know, Old Grand Haven Road, north of the bridge.
Yeah.
I grew up on Hickory Street,
Oh,
which is right by, if you go all the way down Hickory, is North Holiday Hills, if you're familiar with the area at all.
yeah.
We grew up on Hickory. My parents bought that house the night that my mom went into labor for me.
Oh, wow.
So, and she still lives there.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Born and raised here, went to Grand Haven schools.
So growing up, what did you think you were going to do in life?
I had no idea.
Yeah.
No clue. At first, when I was little, I thought, well, maybe I'll be a microsurgeon. That sounds like fun.
It sounds easy enough.
Yeah. I don't want to go to school for 12 years or whatever it is. And then, you know, as I get closer to graduation, I don't know. I'd never been passionate about anything in particular. I did a lot with horses growing up, 4-H and showing
Okay.
horses and all of that, but there's no money to be made in that, and unless you're like a thoroughbred owner or something.
Yeah.
That wasn't going to happen. So I thought, I don't know what I want to do. I like to shop. Maybe I'll go to school for retail management and fashion merchandising. So that's what I did. Kind of a BS degree, in my personal opinion, but that's how I got my job at the outlet in Traverse City.
Okay.
I was hired in Holland, and they wanted to promote me, and so in order to get the promotion, I had to move to Traverse City.
Oh, okay.
No, I take that back. I was living in Lansing because I don't remember. It was 30-some years ago. I was in Lansing at some point, too. I think I went to Lansing, and then I went to Traverse City. Anyway, I lost my train of thought.
Using your degree.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was using my degree, and as it turned out, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but apparently what I need to do and what I'm good at is leading people. Because I was quickly promoted in the outlet store, and then I took the helm here, and it seemed to work pretty well.
Did you see some of that growing up in yourself, of being able to lead people where you follow the leader, the person in front?
No, I was very shy, quiet growing up. I never saw myself as a leader. My dad owned a business, so maybe I inadvertently learned some of that from him, but I never saw myself as a leader back then.
I like to think in the terms of, like, there was always a plan, right? Like from the foundations of the world, there was a plan, and then we were born at this moment so that we could fulfill it, if that makes sense. And so I like to always look back. Like, I've looked back at when I worked at McDonald's or when I worked at all these different places, and then I can see now, hindsight, oh, that one little thing that I learned at McDonald's is helping me run this. Do you see that in your life?
I do, and that reminds me of when I worked at Burger King, my only restaurant experience. I was 18 and I was promoted to a manager. So there again was another leadership role early on. So apparently I was meant to do that. I hadn't really thought about it till you said that.
Yeah. Can you turn it?
Oh.
So the little, there we go. Yeah.
Like
there
this?
we go. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that sounds a lot better.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's good. Yeah, I've seen that in just counting a register, for example. So we opened up Entertain Zone at the mall. It's like a little family fun place. And I hadn't done anything like that since the 90s when I worked at like a fast food place. And then it came time to, okay, I got to set up my POS and I got to figure out this register, and it all just came back to me. I'm like, oh yeah, there should be this amount of money in there. We should do it like that. It's weird how that happens, and the different things that you go through that then also then they come into play later on in your life, right? You figured out how to use it, I guess. I guess, yeah.
Yeah,
So maybe you learned some leadership skills from your dad.
I may have. Yeah. I actually worked for him at the junkyard.
I was going to ask, were you ever at the junkyard and see how he functioned and how he dealt with things? Yeah, junkyard business is a whole other business. They're like, it's there, get it or not.
Yeah. You want it? Take it. If not, hit the road.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, hey, how you doing? What are you looking for today? It's not customer service oriented.
Yeah. So how did you figure out customers by working Burger Kings and things like that instead?
Yep. And I started actually at the junkyard when I was 14. That was my first job. I was the secretary or whatever you would call it, answering the phones and doing some book work and weighing trucks that would come in with scrap. You got to weigh them when they're full. They go dump it off. Then you weigh them when they're empty, and the difference is the tare weight that you pay them, X amount a ton for, depending on what kind of metal it was. See, all that's coming back to me all of a sudden. And I know aluminum extrusions are a lot more valuable than miscellaneous scrap steel. That came back to me now, too. In case you were wondering, if you have any aluminum extrusions, go sell them.
Yeah. So did you find, what was your relationship with your dad when you were working with him at the junkyard then, as opposed to later?
It was fine. Yeah, it was fine because I was the subordinate and I knew it, and all I was doing was, answering phones. Later with the restaurant, I was in charge, but he had very strong ideas about how I should do things. And that's where we butted heads because we were kind of on the same playing field.
How was your mom during all this when it came to these things?
Oh, she didn't really
get involved.
No. It would get ugly, and nobody wanted to be part of that.
Yeah, we're always like one of our parents, right? And then we're the two that butt heads.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Yes.
I had that more with my mom growing up, butting heads with her all the time.
Oh,
now
really?
we have a perfect relationship, but yeah, but it was all my fault, really. I was the one that didn't want to come home or did things, or talked back, or I was that person. But I got that strong will, I think, from her, right? So,
yeah, you're right. And that's why you butted heads.
Yeah.
And that's why I butted heads with my dad, because we were both leaders, and we both had ideas on how this was going to go.
Different methods of leadership.
Yep.
Yeah, because I assume your dad was more like, it's my way or the highway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. Absolutely.
So you don't have to talk about anything. You don't want to talk about it. I'm just curious as to
ask away. I'm not shy. I'm not guarded.
Because your firstborn would be 27-ish already.
Yeah.
Now about the age when you took over that restaurant, right?
Yes.
That's interesting. So then would it, is he even in that realm of business?
No, he is. He knew what he wanted. He is an engineer, software engineer. In high school, he said, I want to go to Michigan Tech. I want to get a software engineering degree. I said, you sure you don't want to explore other things? Nope, this is what I want to do. And that's what he did. He applied to Michigan Tech. He went and got his degree. He got a job, and now he is working at an Atlanta-based company, but he lives in Tennessee because he can work remotely. His girlfriend's an engineer as well.
Oh.
He wanted nothing to do with the restaurant. Oh, my God.
With a restaurant business?
I forced him a couple of times to go in and bus tables because I needed somebody. Somebody didn't show up or whatever. It was awful. He was just surly and just unpleasant. And so I never did it again because I can't have people like that at my restaurant.
Yeah, no. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, he was not a good fit.
And you have another child?
Yes. Emily's my daughter. She's 22. She has actually worked in the restaurant quite a bit, and she's good at it.
So she was born in 01?
Yes.
Both of my first two borns were born in 97 and 01.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, exactly. That's why. That's the only reason. It's not like I'm good at math. It's the only reason, off the top of my head, I figured out.
I was going to say, you're really good at math.
No. No, my oldest is 27, and my younger son from my first marriage is 22 right now.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Emily was good at it. She started out bussing tables and then hostessing, then waiting tables and bar backing, and pretty much whatever I needed she could do.
Is she still with you working or no?
No, she is at Ferris State University.
Oh.
Go Dogs. She's getting her radiography certificate or degree, or I don't know what you call it, but she's going to do radiography.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
That's very cool. Well, maybe in some serendipitous thing, she meets my son. No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe.
and they make each other better. No. Wow. So it takes a certain personality, I guess, to bartend, run a restaurant, that kind of thing.
A lot of ass kissing.
Yeah.
Customer service and, trying to take care of your employees. And it's a lot. Yeah.
So I assume you got hit on a lot throughout the years.
Yeah.
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 At the bar. The bar side of it. Or maybe
Yeah.
even at the restaurant side of it, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, gosh. And then how does you grew up in a very different time than now, obviously. And so how did you handle that? It's very different. Like, now it's more aware. There's more awareness around it, right? And people maybe not.
It's a very different world now. People don't hit on other people like they used to, and they don't need to. They've got all the dating sites and stuff.
Sure.
So the world's very different than it was back then.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how bad was it for you?
It wasn't too bad. I gotta say, one of my subordinates hit on me, and he's the one I ended up marrying. Yeah, that happens sometimes.
Rule number 1.
Don't do the help.
Don't do the help.
No, it was good. We've got good kids, and we have a good relationship now. And actually, his sister is my right-hand woman at the restaurant, and every member of his family, including his mother, has worked for me in one of my businesses since we've been divorced.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a weird but good, close-knit relationship.
Divorce is horrible, and going through it is terrible. It's always nice when, on the other side of it, there's that. Mm-hmm. Even if it's for the kids, right? That then there's this friendship still there.
Yeah.
Those people are always going to be part of your lives because you have children together.
Yep.
I was able to be good friends with my ex-wife too,
Mm-hmm.
and throughout the years and things like that. And it became so much so that we were such good friends. We introduced each other. We had to hang out and be like, okay, so this is a girl that I'm taking seriously. Let's all hang out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just
and that's great because so many people don't. They're so hateful,
Mm-hmm.
and the examples that they're setting for their kids by doing that is just awful. So kudos to you for doing that the right way.
Her too. She had to put up with me anyway
Yeah.
too. So
Right.
Yeah. So going back to the and I'm just curious, difference between in customer based hitting on you in the 90s, early 2000s, as opposed to, in the 2010s. Mm-hmm. How different was it? Did you see the change happen or not, or what?
Yeah. Actually, in the 90s, I probably dated a fair amount of my customers. And in 2010, I was just freshly divorced. But by then, the online dating became a lot more. So there seemed to be less of the hitting on in the,
Inside.
physical environment. I guess. I don't know. But I was also a lot older, and it could have been my mindset as well.
Sure.
Maybe I just said, I've had enough of that crap. I'm too old for that.
Yeah.
I don't really know. I haven't given it a lot of thought. You're asking a lot of thought-provoking questions, which is cool because, I just go about my business and don't think back on stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I think it could have been more me than just the environment. I don't know.
Makes sense. Yeah. Are you still single now?
I am not married,
Okay.
but I am seeing somebody.
Oh,
yes.
okay. Yeah. I didn't mean to ask it like that, but I was just wondering if you've developed.
Hey, baby.
Hey there. No, I'm happily married now with 3 other kids, like a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 3-year-old now.
Wow.
Just going on 4 this month.
So you started over in the kid department.
All the way over. Yeah.
No way. Not me, man.
I felt bad for my wife a lot because then I wind up. This is the way I describe it. You get softer as you get older, right, on your kids and stuff. But I'm like, maybe I treat them more like grandpa than dad, kind of. So she homeschools them, and everything's like great. She's amazing. She's great. The whole thing. It's just that when I come home, then she tells me, everything's fine. You get home and everything gets loud. It's time to play. I'm messing around with the kids, and
Yeah.
it's very different from when I was like 20 and had a baby and trying to figure out life and trying to figure out where am I going to work? What's going to be my career? And then I always had these aspirations of doing acting and movies and that kind of thing, and there wasn't going to be money in that. I didn't look like Tom Cruise, so. So all that pressure, and it's very different now than it was. But yeah, so obviously you're not going to have any more kids.
No. That ship has sailed.
Yeah. It's been so good getting to know you. I just want to shift gears. So for those of you listening to this podcast, now I want to shift into more business side of stuff for our Rediscover Business podcast. So if you're listening and you're watching, you can shift over to that one. But this one, we'll end this one here. Thank you so much for being with us and letting us get to know you a little better and the person behind what's going on at the restaurant, right?
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.